Two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. And with me tonight are two of my favorite anime lovers. Welcome, Septum and Kabuki Jake. Thank you for coming back.
All right.
So today's pre-show is going to be about another superhero themed movie. This time it's going to be an animation. And I figured that Jake here could kind of take us into the realm of what possibilities that we have in store for us.
Right. So what we have tonight is, we may have bit off a little more than we could chew for one discussion, but we'll do what we can. But to start off, we're looking at a series. It's an original anime series produced by Sunrise, the same people involved with Cowboy Bebop and other such big productions. And the series was originally directed by Keiji Sato, and it's called Tiger and Bunny. Specifically, we were looking at the two movies, Tiger and Bunny, the movie, The Beginning, and Tiger and Bunny, the movie, The Rising. Unfortunately, for multiple reasons, that is not going to be probably the best way to go forward tonight. And so anyone who's watching, and hopefully we have a few watching, who helped vote these in, yes, I have the series. Well, I'm going to show that off in a minute. But basically, for anyone who helped vote those in, essentially, we did a very, very long and involved, but I think good discussion last night, the three of us, on Higurashi When They Cry, and that was a hell of a time suck.
Versus the world.
Other things, getting into the life, getting involved as well. It's probably going to be better for us tonight to focus on this movie, The Beginning.
Okay.
We may discuss the others. We will discuss the others in passing as part of the conversation, especially the series. But we may come back to it at a later date. So again, apologies to anyone that really wanted to see both movies. I am a bad anime fan. I thought I had seen this. And for whatever reason, I thought it was a sequel to this. But this is a sequel to this. And it's a much bigger commitment than a movie. So I have rewatched 14 episodes of the series, as well as both movies. So I have a lot of it fresh in my mind. And I did watch both movies with someone who's never seen the series. And she actually was taken aback by the apparent passage of time, but was able to follow along with minimal prompting from me. So that it is one thing that can be said. If you just want to watch both movies, yeah. But the basic gist of it, Tiger and Bunny features Kaburagi T. Kotetsu, a.k.a. Wild Tiger, and Barnaby Brooks Jr., a.k.a. Barnaby Brooks Jr., or as Kotetsu calls him, Bunny. And they are a superhero team in a world where superheroes are big business. Basically, you can think of it as kind of similar to the setup in the prologue to The Incredibles, and very similar to the world that you see in The Incredibles 2, and to a degree, My Hero Academia. The idea is that you have sponsored heroes. Although in My Hero Academia, it's more of a licensing system. In this case, it's more of you have actual corporate sponsors And if you're not sponsored, you're basically considered a vigilante outside of the system. And people, they all have their own. Like Kaburagi is, was it Figure Arts or whatever it is, and SoftBank. Barnaby wears Bandai logos and
Amazon
other things.
Japan.
Amazon Japan. Blue Rose carries Pepsi labels.
To me,
To
me, it's kind of like if you put like Ready Player One and The Running Man mixed together.
There's a little bit of Ready Player One in there as well. I can see that. But basically,
before we get into much, we should say one thing, especially if there are people watching. There will be spoilers, so.
Oh yes.
And there's going to be plenty of product placement.
I'm sorry. I kind of was like, I flashed back to last night for half a second. I expected you to say no Gundam.
No Gundam.
There is no Gundam in here. But anyway, so the basic gist of it is there is this big Hero TV. It's reality television programming where the heroes compete for points by capturing criminals, rescuing people, and doing various other assorted things that heroes do. And basically, all of these characters, there are 8 major heroes in this series, and they all participate in this system for ratings and for profit and whatever. And they have different viewpoints about what that means and where their role is in there. And it's just it needs to be said straight up, it's a heavily Western influenced series. It's very much based on Western comic traditions. So it really does, in a lot of ways, feel like a superhero movie that happens to be an anime style. I mean, it really is. And some of them even, I feel like some of the characters even reflect certain Western characters in a way. But anyway, we'll get into more of that later. But first, we should probably do first impressions. And I guess, Dave, why don't we let you start with it?
Well, I don't know whether it was things have been going on with my vehicle today and yesterday or not, but I saw this movie for the first time today, and it took me a moment to get into it. I had to restart it a couple of times because it starts out with like a radio announcer announcing like different superheroes that have technically nothing to do with the characters that are the movie are about, but they're characters that surround them in the infrastructure of their gaming privileges. But as I got into it, they did kind of flesh out more Wild Tiger than they did did the Brooks Jr. dude.
Brooks Jr. dude.
Yeah. So to me, I kind of feel like this. I can relate to this guy just a bit because he's obviously got superpowers of some sort. Because as they say, 40 years ago, somehow many people were mutated into superheroes. So to me, seeing him, you see him partially go through a job, go through a game, just like he were a job, because he comes back to a locker, takes his clothes, puts them back on, and he ends up having dates with this somewhat of a pro skater girlfriend of his, or he's supposed to have a date with her, and isn't there a?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
You might be talking about Blue Rose. There's a, I don't know how. I mean, if we're talking about Tiger or Wild Tiger, she kind of has. I don't know whether it would be more of a. I don't know whether I would consider it a romantic, if not more of like a father figure feel that she has for him.
Wait, I know what you're talking about. His daughter.
Oh,
that's
never mind.
Ice skating. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, ice skating.
Yeah, you completely threw me off there. Okay.
Sorry.
It
was hard.
Wasn't a date. Well, not in that sense.
Okay.
Because he was trying to get to her event, and to me, it's like he had this superhero role that he had to do. It was like something that would call him. He'd be on call.
Yeah.
Whatever was happening, and he had to show up because he was sponsored.
It's a big freaking statue moving. You gotta,
All right. So
I enjoyed it for the most part. I guess I didn't really see them really get all buddy at all during this.
Oh, you don't.
No.
And that's another thing. Like, this movie is just. I should probably, I guess, go ahead and back up and just kind of describe a little bit. The movie recaps in condensed and recut form the first 2 episodes of the series.
With a few liberties.
And then what's that?
With a few differences.
Well, yeah, there's differences. But basically, for all intents and purposes, that first opening battle sequence and then the whole thing with the moving statues and his daughter's ice skating match are the first 2 episodes. And then the whole thing with the International Thief is an original to the movie.
Yes.
And so essentially, you could think of this chronologically as matching up with the first 6 or 7 episodes of the series. And at that point in the series, the 2 of them were still barely able to tolerate each other. So they definitely don't get buddy right away.
Would you say, could you go into this movie without knowing anything about the series and still?
Well, yeah. This one works as a standalone because, like I said, it really does recap the beginning of the series, and it doesn't really go into. And they actually, one of the differences that Brandon probably alluded to is you get a little bit more of each of their backstories than you do in the first couple episodes of the series. Yeah. Like, you don't actually truly learn about Kotetsu's wife until about the 10th or 11th episode at the earliest. So you don't even know he's a widower until almost halfway through the series. And here they throw it at you within the first 20 minutes of the film. So that was changed up a little bit. And with Barnaby, they brought forward a little bit his past. That came up sooner in the series. But so there were a few things that were brought up. One thing that is considerably toned down to where the series is helpful is all the other characters. Yeah. Like Blue Rose gets her own episode in the 4th episode. Fire Emblem is central to the 6th episode. And then they follow that up with episodes for Origami Cyclone and Dragon Kid. But in the movie, they really don't get much at all to do. And in fact, and I'll talk on that when I do my first impression. But so if you were a little confused with some of the characters just based on the movie, it makes sense. But I feel like it's not as critical as it could be. You know what I mean?
Get into the RuPaul character.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. Yeah, the Fire Emblem. Yeah.
And they really give him more depth with the second movie.
They really give him a lot to do in
a,
the second movie, which is nice. But yeah. So how about you, Brandon?
Well, first I wanted to let people know, if you are interested in this series, it just so happens that rightstuff.com is
it's on sale right now.
And it's on sale. You
the
can
series and the
series and the movies. Right now, the Blu-ray and the DVD are at the same price as far as the series is concerned, which is in 2 sets, and each set is like 20 a piece. Now you get a bit of a discount if you're just trying to get the DVDs for the movies, because they're $12.86 a piece for the movies, as opposed to like $14.95 and $15.45 for the Blu-rays.
And it's important to note this is a Viz Media release. These don't go on sale.
So it's actually
they don't go on sale. I just bought this for about $10 more than it's on sale right now.
If anything, if I was to say, would I rather have the movies or the series? I would rather have the series. But having all of them together is, of course, the preference. Right. So as far as my first experience, I remember hearing about this series constantly when it was first debuting. Like, it was just on top.
They promoted it.
It was promoted big time. And there was a lot of buzz because people hadn't really seen anything quite like that in anime. I mean, this is before My Hero Academia. This is like a true superhero kind of Marvel Comics-esque anime with a bit of a dark humor take on the situation.
Actually, I think this movie came out the same year as the Avengers or thereabouts. So it's, the MCU was still firing up at that point.
So I had to get the series as soon as I got it. And there were a couple of things that turned me off about it, but we'll talk about that as we go on. But for the most part, I was intrigued and fascinated by it. I really loved the series. So when the movie came out, I really was glad to get it. And though I was disappointed that the movie didn't add, that it was another one of those condensed, hey, we're going to condense the series type anime movies that you get in a lot of shonen ones. I did like that they were trying to go in a slightly different direction, that they were trying to push it in a different way. So you could get something out of it even if you watched the series. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't what the series was to it. It wasn't something that I felt like the series itself was kind of better. I put forward the My Hero Academia movie as mine. It didn't get but like 2 votes. But that one is more of a like side story. But this one kind of starts.
I'm prepared for when it gets into the next round. I'm prepared.
But I was really impressed by it. I really liked what they did with it, and I thought it was kind of fun. I love the concept. I like that whole kind of NASCAR concept where you've got the logos all over everything, and them doing that. It's just fun.
Right. Yeah. So this one is one that I believe I had been introduced to, because again, when this came out, it was everywhere, and it was promoting the heck out of it. I can't remember. Maybe I waited until you got it and borrowed it, or if I watched. I don't think I streamed it. I can't remember. I don't think I bought it blind. But I do know, well, actually, I know I only literally just a few minutes ago, an hour ago, opened this copy of Part 2. So I've been sitting on Part 1 and the first movie in my collection for some time. I only just finished it. But I had seen the movie shortly after the series. And yes, I loved the series. I loved the concept. There were parts that didn't work too well for me. Some of them I've gotten more comfortable with. There were parts that were I felt like it could have been a little more, but I was utterly fascinated by this thing that successfully was a Western-oriented series. It's very rare that they do that in Japan. Every now and then they will do one that screams Western audience. And sometimes they're not so great, like Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. And sometimes they just take a Western IP and put an anime gloss on it, like the Marvel series, like Blade and X-Men and Iron Man and whatnot. Or Batman Ninja. It's very rare that they do an original concept that is clearly a Western themed concept. And they did it so well. And part of the issue is I'm not so sure it would happen nowadays because of all the people trying to foment division and treating outsiders as outsiders and somehow less and all that stuff. But if that wasn't so heavy in our society right now, this is, I think, exactly how it would play out. If people suddenly, if the next were among us, if people suddenly had superpowers, then damn straight they would be the stars of reality programming.
Oh yeah,
they would be corporations building their careers on the backs of these individuals. It would be you have to work for the man or else you can't do it. There all this stuff just this is how it would work in this country.
Especially in the future based off of an early 2000s vision.
Yes.
That really is.
Technically, it takes place in the 70s, but
I don't think people in the early 2000s would have been able to predict what our current times are going.
I don't think anyone. But and then, as I said, I sincerely thought I had seen the second movie. I don't know how I made that mistake. I sincerely thought I had. So my first impression of that one, I'll go ahead and say I saw it the other night, and it was quite good. I feel like the second one fixed some of the mistakes of the first one. The first one does have one major thing going against it, and that is in their drive to tell all these great big action-heavy stories. They cut back on the character development. They still include some very pivotal moments, but especially the side characters. A lot of the side characters get short-shrifted, where they have that disastrous meeting, which is a slight deviation from the series. Everyone is much more openly opposed to getting to know each other than probably would have been the case if they'd had more chance to develop them. In the series, most of them were more or less friends at that point. It was more like work friends.
Well, they established that sort of in the movie. The fact that Tiger was able to get them all to the bar as a welcoming showed that they had that rapport.
Their reaction made it look like
they had that competition thing going on there, which was heavily said at that moment where he was trying to get them to meet his new partner, which he had to lie about to begin with.
Because one thing that's very notable about this is that, and this is one of my first impressions, and you guys can tell me if you agree, when you first meet Barnaby, he's a dick. He has
no problem showing his true identity.
Right, which was interesting. He has a reason for it.
His superhero name is his main regular name.
Yes. So, and actually, we'll go ahead and mention. So the team, you've got, like I said, Kotetsu T. Kaburagi, who goes by Wild Tiger. You've got Keith Goodman, who goes by Sky High and is currently the, quote, king of heroes. Nathan Seymour goes by Fire Emblem. That's someone else. Paolin Huang goes by Dragon Kid. Karina Lau goes by Blue Rose. Ivan Karolin goes by Origami Cyclone. And Antonio Lopez goes by Rock Bison. which actually is another thing I do like about this series that kind of gives it a little bit of an X-Men vibe, is it is a very diverse cast of individuals. And I like that. I like that they are very diverse. They have a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different, they're diverse ages. They don't really go into it in the movie, and they're not too specific in the series. But Kaburagi and Lopez, Wild Tiger and Rock Bison, are actually old schoolmates of each other, and they're roughly contemporary, and they are the old crowd. That old.
It seemed like they were kind of buds because he was trying to get him to come to that banquet or whatever that was going on with the free food, and he was like, no.
He accentuated the free food.
and that scene, as a lot of those scenes are, was taken directly from the series. And there is a moment in the third episode where the two of them are chilling in a bar having a beer together, and they happen to realize that the piano player / singer is Karina, aka Blue Rose. And so that leads into her episode. But it's she, but on the other hand, is a high school girl. And I don't think it's explicitly stated Dragon Kid's age, but she's probably about that age too. And you got Barnaby and Ivan were schoolmates together, and they're close in age, and they're like early 20s. And then Fire Emblem is a little older, but not like,
Looks like 30s,
and
late 20s,
probably
30s.
So there's an age diversity there. But this does bring up one of my early gripes with this one is Fire Emblem is a very interesting character with an interesting backstory. But it is he, she, they are I guess they call it a gender fluid individual.
Before that became common practice, actually.
Before it did. But the problem with that is they play up certain gay stereotypes to the hilt.
Well, that's Japanese.
And that's very offensive in the first film, I think.
You've
the series less so.
You've watched anime before.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but the Japanese are very homophobic in a culture. And it shows
that doesn't mean that it has to be that played up.
most gay characters in anime are either overplayed, evil, predatory, or comic relief.
And the fact that this character has predatory tendencies that are played for comic relief is problematic. The fact is that
the groping scene it really gets you. Did the groping scene really get to you?
Well, again, I just thought it was played up too much. And the English dub has that character so overplayed. I'm like, okay, y'all had an opportunity to dial it back a bit, and you decided to go to 11. That was not a good time to go to 11. So I had issues with the English dub of this movie. Now, again, I will say a lot of that was fixed in the second movie, but we're not really talking about that too much right now. But and then again, in the series, one thing you find out that's really cool is that this character actually owns their own company. They are their own sponsor. And most of the others have to work for the man, but that one doesn't. So I think that's really cool. And there's, some of the other characters don't really get to shine in the movie. You really don't get to learn anything about Dragon Kid or Origami Cyclone in this movie. They get to shine later on, but,
Watch the series.
Yes, exactly. And then, and actually, that does remind me, though. I mean, given all that we've been talking the last couple of weeks about the brand new Bruce Lee said, I did love that Dragon Kid's favorite outfit is that tracksuit.
Game of Death tracksuit.
But there again, there were a couple of trappings with that character that may have been
stereotypical.
The Japanese are known to be a little stereotypical towards the Chinese. Which actually the fact they called her Dragon Kid, which is probably a takeoff of Dragon Lady.
I mean, look at Ranma, one half, the tour guide, Sinkyo. If that's not a stereotype.
Ranma had certain elements are dated.
It's about the culture, and sometimes. I mean, again, it's all there, and then you got to look at this from a different lens also as to when it came out. Whereas in Rising, I think it evolved a bit over that time to be. I mean, you even got some of those characters looking a lot better, a lot less like the stereotypes they represented. Yeah. And in the series, they evolved beyond those type of stereotypes.
And like I said, that may have been partly an unavoidable thing of having a movie that focused heavily on action. Yeah. And tried to tell a whole bunch of story in a short time frame.
And when you're trying to condense a lot.
As a straight action film, and you talked about like a lot of anime films just retell the story. I will admit, of the handful I've seen, very few of them do it this well. It is a well-edited film.
I think going in a different direction helped a lot.
Yes.
I think if they had just kept to it and said, this is the first 5 or 6 episodes in one movie, I think it wouldn't have benefited.
Oh, if they had tried to do the first 6 episodes, that would have been tough. Although the 6th episode is, I think, the first incidental inclusion. In the movie, there is another character, a very notable character, who is introduced in this film, Yuri Petrov. I think the 6th episode of the anime is when you first see his handiwork as a hero. He becomes known as the vigilante Lunatic. And Lunatic does show up in the 2nd film.
Lunatic shows up first in the credits.
Yeah. He's a fun character, but he's a character that you really need to get a proper intro in the series before you really can enjoy him in the movies. But basically, he is Kaburagi's polar opposite. Because Kaburagi is all about saving lives. Yep. To him, that's what a hero is. A hero saves lives. That's the thing. He doesn't care about sponsors. He doesn't care about collateral damage. He'll just pay the fines later. And actually, his sponsor at the beginning of the film gets bought out by a larger corporation because they can't keep paying the fines. But he is all about saving lives. And to him, that is what being a hero is all about. Lunatic is all about judgment. He will happily kill someone if they are a killer. He wants the punishment to fit the crime. So you could think of it almost, Kaburagi is almost the Batman of this one, without the money. And and Lunatic is like the Red Hood version, he
is a judge, so it makes sense.
Yes, exactly. But and then you get that contrast, the less extreme contrast with Tiger and Barnaby, because Barnaby comes in all business. Like, I'm here to make points because that's my job. I'm going to save lives when I can get points for it. That sort of thing. He comes in all about the show. He is a showman. Even though he has no real personality to speak of, or he seems to. He understands what is expected of them and understands how to deliver. Kaburagi understands people, but he could care less about what's expected of him. And so that they make an oil and water mix, which is kind of, but they are billed as the first superhero team. Everyone else is like direct rivals. You know, they're all working on their own, and these two come in as a team and try to do the team thing. But the so the first part, well I guess did y'all either of y'all want to throw in any more real quick on like character, or before we get into like the actual plot, or
oh. Yes, not
okay. Because again, most of them aren't really as developed as they could be, you know. In this movie, you get bits of it. You know, you'll learn a lot more later on, but you know, the basic plot starts off again, basically recapping episode 1, which throws you right into an episode of Hero TV. Basically, you're thrown right into the action. There is a group of robbers that are fleeing in like an armored car or some such thing, and then you see all the different heroes take their turns at them. I think Flame Emblem was the first one to show up, and then you got like Rock Bryson has that unfortunate moment where he stops the vehicle with his horns, and then it's stuck to his head. He can't get it off. And then you get, you know, Blue Rose, Lightning Kid, Dragon Kid makes her entrance, and Origami Cyclone shows up in the background because that's what he does at first. And then, you know, Kaburagi takes his stab at it and ends up in a position where he needs help, and Blue Rose happens to be there to. And then, of course, Bunny saves the day. Well, Barnaby saves the day. None of them have met him at this point. He technically jumps into the fray before making his debut as a hero, just to kind of give everyone a tease, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then you get the scene where Kaburagi finds out that... Oh, and Sky High, of course. I forgot him. Yeah. Kaburagi finds out that from his old friend Ben, who was his manager, that, we went under. You're now working for Apollon Media. Go see this guy. And this leads into the second episode part of the movie, where Kaburagi was going to go see his daughter's ice skating thing. And he has to go meet his new boss. It happens to be the same afternoon. And of course, while he's there, the alarm goes off. And what's he going to do? You know, that Mr. Lloyd's has told him already repeatedly, if you don't like it, you can quit. I think he said that, what, 6 times in the series, I think, in that first episode. And he's like, okay, well, he has to jump into the fray. And there's this giant statue moving around. Okay. Destroying the city, and so they go at it, and eventually another statue starts moving around, and the whole time Kaburagi is unfortunately missing his daughter's thing, and she's up to him. What's that?
I would almost say that these statues are more like golems.
They kind of are in this case.
Because they're big, gigantic. They seem to be immovable stone, and to me, that's kind of what those remind me of.
And there's one thing that we didn't actually talk about when it comes to character in relation to this team. Well, one, of course, they're given these suits that give them slight enhancement of their abilities and all of that. Which is very funny from one of the characters they introduced, who only talks and whispers, and takes fun in basically destroying Tiger's old costume just to show how pitiful it is compared to the new one. But also,
I did enjoy in the second movie where he did the same thing to Golden Ryan, but
he's like, okay, that's better, yes. But the interesting thing about it is Tiger and Bunny are paired for multiple reasons, and one other reason is that they both have the same power.
They do.
which is this 5-minute power, which, at least in this part of it, where for 5 minutes, when they activate their power, they become extremely strong and fast.
I think they call it the 100 power or whatever.
Because, 100 times,
Right.
And you see Tiger using it at the beginning where he just ties up the railway like a little bow.
Right.
But they have to be careful because they only have that 5 minutes, so they've got to be careful about the timing, which is how they use the suits for compensation. You only see them use that power sparingly. Tiger more recklessly than Bunny.
Right. And that's one of the things, that's one of the areas of contention between them, because Tiger is very instinctual. He doesn't overthink things, which is kind of code for being reckless. But on the other hand, he does have good instincts. He is a veteran. He's been doing this for years, and he does have good instincts. He's good at reading people to a degree. I mean, there are certain things, because like I'm getting to the point in the series where it's clear that Blue Rose has a crush on him, and he don't have a clue. But like, there are times where he gets it and Barnaby doesn't because of his instinct. And Barnaby, though, is much more analytical. He likes to make a plan of attack before attacking, and not just for maximal efficiency in destroying the foe or capturing the foe. What's that?
Tiger's a doer.
You're right.
He just do without instinct sometimes.
So yeah, he is definitely much more of an action. Yeah, doer is a good way to put it. And actually, this probably is a good idea to. You don't really get all of them right away. Some of them you don't get at all right away, or you don't get at all, really. Blue Rose is obvious. She controls ice.
Yeah.
She has the ability to create and control ice. Flame Emblem has the ability to create and control fire, and he's very, very, very skilled with it. Dragon Kid has the ability to create and control lightning. She's also basically immune to electricity and is a martial arts master. All of them are good in hand-to-hand combat. Origami Cyclone is a shapeshifter, but I don't even think that's mentioned in the movie. And Rock Bison can basically turn into bronze, like living bronze, basically. I'm not really sure what, if that's explicitly mentioned. And Sky High has control over wind currents. He doesn't actually technically fly. He has a special pack that lets him fly, but he can control wind, basically.
They discussed that like after the bar scene, and they're going off to try and suit up, where he actually even says, like, well, can't you just take off? It's like, well, no, I can't really fly all that well without my jetpack. I can only kind of control wind currents. I can't really do it like that.
Right. And he also has the superpower of stating the obvious twice.
Oh, he's that wholesome Captain America-esque hero. He really is
He's a total Boy Scout. Yeah, he is a total Boy Scout character, but he's a lovable doof because he really
he's the number one hero, but he's not the kind of number one hero that's conceited that you would hate for it.
Well, no. He's conceited without him knowing it, so it's kind of like he's Dudley Do-Right with the kind of humor that he has.
I never saw the Dudley Do-Right, but from what I saw of it, I think you're right. But
Do-Right was also a cartoon at one point as well, so that was similar to like Rocky and Bullwinkle. So
right. What's that?
Back in those days,
right.
before we were born.
Back in the day, yes.
Even my old ass.
Yes. So basically, so basically you have these one thing we haven't really said is the location. This takes place in a fictional city called Sternbilt City. That's like built on layer upon layer upon layer. It's like 3 main layers above the ground. And it's a really fascinating design, like a really strange architecture. It's kind of like almost like someone took New York City and the Tim Burton Gotham and Hong Kong and like all these big metropolises and kind of threw them all together in a really, it's very shiny and bright, and there are a lot of statues, which is why when these statues start coming to life, there's a lot to choose from. Mm-hmm. And one of them eventually ends up threatening the ice rink. And this is where a couple of very interesting things happen. One, you learn about, again, Kaburagi's gift with people. I think you learn early in the movie. You see a little bit of his backstory where he was saved 30, 40 years ago by a gentleman calling himself Mr. Legend. Mm-hmm. Who it's kind of funny that this legendary hero just looks like a dude you'd meet in a trailer park. I mean, he really doesn't look like a superhero at all. But Mr. Legend met Kaburagi when he was a kid who was afraid of his own powers and taught him to, he gave him the idea, well, why don't you just use your powers to help people, Even you can be a hero. Even you can be a hero, yes.
It's like the All Might, except for kind of the dime store All Might.
Yeah, he is. He's a dime store All Might. And actually, when you learn more about his backstory, you could almost throw in a little bit of Captain Hammer there. I could hear him. I could see him doing that every as a hero.
He's like a crack-headed version of Rutger Hauer.
Right. Actually, that's an interesting thought. But anyway, so Kaburagi wants to pay it forward, I guess you could say. He realizes that this kid might actually be controlling these statues, and Barnaby's like, "Oh, we need to arrest him." And he's like, "No, wait." He actually talks the kid down, gets him to give himself up. But then when the rink is once again about to collapse, the kid actually steps forward and helps keep things from getting worse. But in between that, you had the scene in the rink itself where Kaburagi's daughter Kaede is actually in mortal danger, and he is too slow to help her. But at the last minute, he realizes that Barnaby saved her. And then so he has this weird, awkward moment where he walks up and, she, of course, is instantly smitten. Like, thank you. And, and of course, she's a Barnaby fangirl for most of the series, which annoys the hell out of him. But she's like, oh, thank you. And he comes up and he comes up to Barnaby. He's like, thanks for that. And Barnaby's like, why are you thanking me? Because he doesn't know at the time. But it's like the first time they do something, one of them is nice to the other, and there's.
It's one of those things also that shows that Barnaby is not just this cold, calculating person, because though he does have that on the exterior, you can tell that he still does care about certain things, and he shows it twice. He shows that 2 times throughout this. Once there, and then once when they're fighting the thief at the end.
Yeah,
it's a
and when he's speaking at the grave at the very end. So you get to see a little bit of his humanity. That I noticed.
He definitely has humanity. He definitely has a little bit of he's not completely a cold he's not a complete jerk, But the two of them really do get on each other's nerves at first. But I like that little moment though, where Tiger like has to admit that this guy really did him a solid, and because one of the things you kind of get in this movie, you definitely get in the series, but I think you do get it in the movie. Wild Tiger seems like a doofus. He seems like a reckless guy who floats through life without a care in the world. Although he is really, really, really serious about being a hero, he's so reckless about it that people think he's kind of a joke. But the one thing that he really, truly puts his all into is that he is very much a doting father. Unfortunately, he's not able to live with her because he doesn't want her to know about his life as a superhero. So it's like, yeah. And as you said, I think, Dave, before, he's always on call, which means he's always, making promises and breaking them. And even when he plans for it, in the series, he actually takes a vacation, which is not a normal thing for him. And before even leaving the city, he can't leave the city. So it's like, yeah, it's even when he tries, that's just one of those things. But yeah, so that's pretty much the recap. And yes, most of that, there are scenes inserted that are mostly small, mostly forgettable. They show a Pepsi commercial, Blue Rose does. There's a meeting with Ivan that wasn't originally part of the series. They just run into him in the hallway. Little things here and there, but mostly
Max of all things. She of course is advertising for Pepsi Max of all things.
Pepsi Next.
Yeah, Next. I think it's like, but just a take on Pepsi Max, obviously, which at the time was, I believe, newish. That sort of diet version is supposed to taste like the real thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was, and apparently, I think the American simulcast, I think they had to edit some of the images because they didn't want to deal with the licensing issues or something like that, because they do actually use legit products and companies on most of these characters.
You actually, if as good as the series was, they could have finagled some good product placement deals with these companies.
Oh yeah. Well, they probably did. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't.
Actually, I almost guarantee you Amazon Japan did sponsor that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And I know Bandai was involved. I mean, I'm quite certain Bandai was involved.
Any of the logos that were freaking clear, I can almost guarantee you they already got the permission and might have even gotten money from them.
Right. So this is a good example of good product placement.
Possibly.
Yes, and of course, one of the things I do love about the series and the movie, along those lines, is that the way that they don't shy away from showing how much money talks in the world. It's not exactly a good thing, but it's interesting to see them not beat around the bush on that issue. And it's especially like I say, you especially see that as you go on. But so after that initial opening sequence, you've got this part with this supposed international thief who goes by what was his name? It was
Yuri Petrov.
No. That was the judge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong one. Why am I looking at the wrong one?
I mean, he had a mysterious figure.
Robin Baxter. And actually, I like this. Kape Yamaguchi plays Robin Baxter, which is, speaking of Ranma. But at least in the, in the English dub, I actually did watch the English dub with both of these. Jason Spisak is him in this one. incidentally, the first two, you got Barnaby is Masakazu Morita and Yuri Lowenthal, and the other one is Hiroaki Hirata and Wally Wingert. And just to throw that out there for people that follow those things. But yes, this character, the thief, is got a very interesting getup. He's got like all these wheels all over. He's got all these wheels. He looks like a professional speed skater, basically. And he keeps slipping by them. And eventually they come to realize that he basically has a ninja displacement technique is basically his power. And he can switch places with any person he sees, which is kind of fun, but makes it a pain to catch him. And he has stolen, what did they call it? The Statue of Legend or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was like a Mr. Legend type item.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was like a tiger to get back.
And he leads them on a chase into an amusement park, which does create some really fascinating set pieces. I think they had fun with the set design for this one. And of course, I mean, if you can switch places with any person, an amusement park is a horrible place to try and track someone down.
Oh, I like how you just like switch places with people on the different rides and just like
right. Yes. And then of course, the heroes don't know this right away, and you get all this awkward stuff. Like you have one part where Dragon Kid electrocutes Rock Bison, and I think they had a couple of other parts where they ended up beating each other up because they just, and actually Tiger and Bunny keep trying to flank him and can't do it. They end up flanking him, and then one of them attacks the other and whatever. And finally they figure it out. And they finally figure it out. They seal off the park, get everyone together. And of course there's that one asshole who says, oh, screw this. There's always one. Yeah, and so because of him, their trap is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
But then it leads to an interesting thing where Tiger actually gives Barnaby an idea, but Barney's not going to admit it that he got. But he goes off on his own, and Tiger is actually like, let's let him do this. He actually gets everyone to stand down and give Barnaby the chance to follow through on his idea. And then you find out at the very end that he actually followed along to watch from a distance just to see what was going on. Yeah. The idea was basically Barnaby got out of his suit. He cut around, beat Baxter at the pass, leaves his suit there, but because he's not in it, Baxter can't switch places with him. And so he basically sneaks up and, Tiger had basically said something about a decoy, and that was what gave him the idea. So that was that. They caught the guy. Everyone was
like Tiger's original idea, where he's like, "Okay, you get him on this side, I get him on that side. That way he can't escape." So he just takes Tiger's place and just goes right back into the park.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But and then, like I said, that's pretty much the plot in a nutshell. If you guys had particular things I skipped that you really want to point out, go for it.
There were two things that were important about that. And again, if you're looking at this, I don't consider this a movie that you would have to look at and say this is all you watch. This is a setup for you to actually say, I'm going to watch the series.
Mm-hmm.
And two things it sets up. One is it, again, affirms that Bunny is not a cold asshole when he saves the rich guy's kid. Right. And kind of says, yeah, he's getting away, but instead of following him, he goes ahead and takes the time to save the kid.
Right.
And the other is with Tiger doing it and Bunny watching it afterwards on the viewer or the helmet viewer.
Mm-hmm.
He's realizing, okay, well, he had trust in me, and 2, he decided to hang back to back me up at the end. So that kind of showed the seeds of them starting to have a trusting relationship, which will build to become strong at the end of the series and in the second movie. So, I mean, those were 2 very important things, I thought, at the end of the plot. And that's all I got to say about that, except for the special effects. But Dave, did you have anything else about the plot that you wanted to?
Well, this was my first time watch, and it was hard for me to focus on it entirely, per se. So I'll definitely have to give this another watch. But from the outset and the onset set of what I did watch and understand, I thought it was an interesting setup. I thought it was interesting that you said something about the statues that were around the city that they were that they are part of has like interesting statues, especially ones that are walking around giant like, you know. So
and I don't think they said in the movie, but the lion-like one that starts terrorizing everyone, the second one, they specifically say in the series, Tiger, that's a national treasure. Don't destroy it. And actually, one thing we've overlooked character-wise is their producer, Agnes Jobert, who's this very hard-charging career woman who is a very forceful producer and does a good job keeping everyone in line. And she's got her crew that's always with her that are I like that scruffy-looking cameraman. He's a pretty fun character. But,
well, since we are running into the other time,
okay.
Why don't we hit special effects? I had one thing that I wanted to put out. One of my chief gripes about the entire series, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, which is I know that a lot of anime do this. And the first time I ran into this was on a show called Kiraren Revolution. I loved the series until they implemented this. They went from hand-drawn to the computer animated, and for that series, computer animated looked terrible because it was kind of early-ish. In this one, the computer animated is variable. Sometimes it looks really smooth, and they use that, and they use the computer animated cell shaded for all the action. And sometimes it's very smooth. Other times it's awkward looking as heck. And I don't know. To me, it was the biggest issue. I really didn't like the costumes as much, I'll admit. That also kind of turned me off of the series originally. But it was the reputation that got me watching it. But all of like I said, just that CG just did turn me off a bit, and it still does to this day.
The 2 main ones, they kind of have a Sentai look to them. You know, they look a lot like something you would expect in Power Rangers or something.
But that being said, for a TV series, it wasn't too bad. But you can still see some of the hiccups in the earlier CG and cell shading. And I don't know.
Do you like the movie better than you like the series?
Special effects wise, yeah, I like the better special effects wise. But I'd say the series I like better story wise because it took its time telling the story. It wasn't rushed, and I felt like I got to know the characters better. And of course, you get to see a lot more of the story.
Maybe that's why I didn't entirely get into this one this time. And I need to sit on this one a little bit because then if I'm actually paying attention without all these other distractions I had during the day, then I can actually maybe sit down and enjoy the
And
movie.
it's fully dubbed in English for the series if you do check it out.
And again, I haven't watched the series in English, but I did watch both movies, and I think it's the same voice cast for all around.
Yeah, it is.
And they're pretty well dubbed. For the most part, they're pretty well dubbed. And they do a pretty good job. Again, I think they went a little, especially with the first movie, I feel like they really went over the top with Fire Emblem's English dub.
I know Japanese did the same thing.
Well, it's harder to tell.
Well, for us.
And again, both the second movie and the series is less of a gripe for me than that first movie. As far as the CG goes, this is a very, 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 very CG heavy series and movie. And I personally think it's one of the best uses I've seen in anime. That doesn't mean it's perfect, and there are moments where it's like, but I don't find it a terrible distraction or gripe for the most part. I've seen bad CG, and I don't think this was bad CG. But there were moments where it slipped a little bit. And the overall production doesn't seem to be all that much. The series clearly had a solid budget. The series is beautiful. And I think that the movies are slightly better, but I don't feel like they don't look, it's not one of those ones where it looks like they went from a TV budget to a movie budget, if that makes sense, you know? It doesn't look hugely different the way it does sometimes. But, you know, as far as some of the other production values, the music is generally good, not extraordinarily, but good. I do like that weird sort of soft theme that seems to play every time Saito's on screen.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of amusing, and it fit for him. And the opening and ending themes were nice, you know, and they're, you know, pretty good.
The opening really did feel like a TV opening, though. Yeah, more than a typical movie opening.
Right. A lot of the Japanese movies do that. And sometimes it's more distracting than others. Like this one, I thought it was almost distracting when they did that in Your Name. You know what I mean? Like this one it felt more at home, if that made sense. As far as the character and costume designs, I admit Tiger and Bunny's suits are not my favorite. Some of the others I really like. I really like the costume designs for Blue Rose, Dragon Kid, Fire Emblem. I kind of like the one for Sky High.
But are much more creative with the other.
Yeah, costumes. Some of them are really creative.
Yeah. Wild Tiger. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wild Tiger. His original suit kind of looked like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, just a little bit.
He's been doing this hero thing for many years, so that kind of reflects on his costume as well. Right. And the fact that that he's always like failing, so he's always making low amounts of money, which also reflects in the design of his outfit too.
And given his personality and the fact that he clearly stays up drinking late at night and whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if he has frequently cracked open a beer and sat down and watched Space Ghost.
See, that's how a hero's supposed to.
No, he's probably sitting there like, "What are you? You're not taking this seriously." But I don't know. But anyway, so do we have much more on the technical or production aspects or anything? Do we want to do favorites?
I think we can go into favorites.
Okay.
Unless, do you have anything, Dave?
Well, you mean as far as favorites, or?
As far as like technical aspects before we move into favorites?
Not that I know of. I mean, I did kind of like the scenes with the giant statues and the fact And I think I did like that moment where dude switched into the old lady, and they're like, wow, wow, Tiger, it's always because of you, kind of thing. So
Right.
always his fault.
They don't get no respect.
But I don't know. I have to see this again for sure. I wasn't prepared for this one, and I admit that. So, but I liked it for the most part, from what I understood of it. So.
Good deal.
As far as favorites, I would have to say one of my favorites was the groping scene. I don't know why. And then when you finally meet Fire, or whatever, after she's unsheathed her mask from herself, and you meet all of the characters involved. It didn't expect seeing some of the characters as they were, so
yeah.
They were definitely different. And I didn't mind what was her name, Ruby, or the chick, the chick superhero.
Well, there's two of them technically. What are you talking about? Blue Rose?
Blue Rose. Blue Rose, they kind of gave her like kind of a sexy appeal at first with that Pepsi Max thing, where they kind of like accentuated her chest just a little bit. So,
well, we kind of barely touched on this, but technically her thing is she's a pop idol. She wants to be a music star, and they don't really go into it in the movie, but they go into it in the series. The only reason she's a hero is because she was told you have to do that if you want to be a singer. So, yeah. So they do give her some like performance scenes and whatever, and part of the reason her costume is so, sexified is because she's an idol. So, that's
and they do reflect a little in the movie by having her CD playing.
Yeah.
And I would have to say they kept it somewhat PG-13 too, with the sexification. So, to me, it was enough to show that she had a certain beauty to add to the teasing factor of herself. So, in any case, moving on.
Moving on.
Get on with it.
Just as a aside, I was looking it up on eBay just to think, it can't be that good a price. But yeah, $19 per one of these, like for the TV, is actually a really good price.
Yeah.
Sad.
That's what I'm saying. They never go that cheap. It's like I said, I literally just bought this for like $5 more than it's on sale right now. I mean, that's like, and that was the best price I could get before Right Stuff put it on sale.
Now, my favorite scene is probably, I think, towards that end where you get to have that confrontation where Tiger is like, yeah, I got this plan, and then he tries to execute the plan. It ends up just being another goof there. It's like, and then Bunny's like, how could you have thought that was going to work? Exactly what was the purpose of
it?
Right. It was... I just thought it was entertaining. One, it just shows that he doesn't really think things through, but sort of can get the gist of what's going on. And it's just kind of fun that way. I do. That's the other downside to the series is I really do like Tiger, and I feel like he's constantly dumped on throughout most of the series.
He is. Oh, no doubt.
Not just that, but just he gets like a genetic dump down later on, which you find out in the second movie if you watch it without watching the series. But you also find out the legitimate in the series, which is how it ends up in that area.
Which I just got to that episode, yeah. So basically, and actually, one of the bonus features, one thing that's cool about these is that they have a crap load of bonus features, which is really rare for an anime release. A lot of it is just promotional material, but some of it's pretty cool. And one thing that is really cool is they do the weekly hero polls where they like actually did like the hero. I was shocked that Blue Rose wasn't in the top 5. But anyway, when they do each one that wins, they interview that character theoretically. And Kaburagi is talking, and he's looking at various things that are going on. And he's like, "Why are you only showing scenes of me goofing up?" I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much par for the course for the way most people treat him." But I have to say, in the first movie, I can think of some wonderful scenes in this franchise. But in the first movie, most of the best scenes, I think, are ones that were actually in the series. Like the part where Barnaby saves Kaede and Kaburagi has to thank him for it. And the part where he teaches the kid that he can be a hero too and gets him to stop the attack. I like those moments. I thought they were really good. There were some nice battle moments here and there. It's hard to pick a scene with Baxter because so many of them were fun. I agree with Brandon. I like the one you picked, but it's hard to pick a favorite in there. Because he was a fun villain. He really was. And
he looked like he was having fun the entire time he was doing it.
He did. He looked like he was just having a blast. And really, that's one cool thing about this series is it does have some fun villains. Jake and Cream are really fun villains. Lunatic is great. He's a great character. So there's some interesting ones, but yeah.
Whenever I hear his voice, because of the voice actor, the English voice actor, I always picture Gaara from Naruto because it's the same voice actor.
Oh, is it?
And because you can hear it in the voice. I keep thinking Gaara, and I'm like, oh crap, this dude's about to do some.
Is that so? Is that so? It's Gaara. I mean, Yuri Petrov is not apparently credited in the English cast for the first movie. That's weird. But you said it's. I'm trying to remember if I've seen the English for Naruto. I'm sure I have. Liam O'Brien, I guess, is the character. Oh yeah, that's a lot of Gaara. That's a lot of Gaara. Yes, good times. So he apparently played Red Skull in one production, Marvel Discourse they called it. Oh, and he's the Red Priest Rezo in Slayers. Okay, or at least the new one, the new Slayers, not the old one. Anyway, that's enough of that for now.
Do our outros?
Yeah, we might as well.
That's good. Yes.
Alrighty. Why don't you go first, Jake?
Okay, well, I'm Kotobuki Jake. I am the co-host on Septum Sin versus the World, and where we discuss all sorts of physical media, pickups, anime. Check out our lovely discussion last night on Higurashi. Very long, so you might want to watch it in 3 or 4 chunks, but I think it'll be worth it. It was
a very in-depth summary of the entire plot.
It was very in-depth, but kind of that's one that deserves an in-depth, I think. And honestly, if we do Tiger and Bunny the series, there's a lot to get into with the series. Honestly, of all the pieces of the franchise, this is the one that has the least to discuss.
That's kind of good, though. It allows us to move through pretty quickly.
Yes. And again, I do apologize to anyone that was really wanting to hear both movies, but we'll hopefully revisit it some point in the future. I think that would be a good plan. Hopefully then we'll be able to get Mo with us, and who knows, maybe even others. And now we'll save the rest, I guess, for later on. So you whoever's next.
I'm with
right.
Well, I'm Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. As far as the only thing I'll do is really give a shout out to anime collectors galore. Out of the people who vote for our stuff, and I'm going to do a more comprehensive list of those who do and don't vote. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to exit those who don't vote. But they were probably one of the most boisterous voting. And really and truly, if you guys are watching, I am giving y'all a shout out on the Facebook, because without y'all, this series probably would have got 0 votes. So, So, with that being said, that's all I got to tell.
Dave?
My name is David Struggy, and I am founding father of Inside Movies Galore, and I moonlight under Delusions of Grandeur. For more information on those two channels, definitely check out the episode that we are going to be discussing Swamp Thing on. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be an exciting furlough into the superhero genre. So stay tuned. We will definitely be exploring some more adventurous stuff. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe. And even you can be a hero.
Indeed.
Everyone.